Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're doing a top 10, or technically more like a top 7 in my opinion, because some of these are sequels in part of the same series, so it's more like 7, but technically there's 10 of them. But what is this the top 10 of? Well, it's been a long time since I've done one of these, and I'm trying something a little different after all. It's been a long time, and a lot of things have changed since the last time I've done one of these. So today, I've chosen some DS titles that I feel like are either unappreciated, not talked about very often, or not very well known, or in other cases, maybe slightly forgotten from the era where they were a lot more remembered. After all, some of us might feel like the DS was round the corner, but yeah, it's been a while. So let's get started. So, my first choice for this list is a title named Again, an interactive crime novel. Interesting thing about this game, now I did play, well, these are all games I've beaten, which is something important to me in a lot of these at this point, because you get the more full picture of the experience, obviously. So these are all games I have finished and beaten, but Again is a game I got on a whim for cheapo title. I think I only did a few bucks on it on one way. My random shopping sprees through bins of games and that. And playing through it and finishing it and doing a little research for it for my review, I was surprised to learn that this is the same company that made Hotel Dusk, which is interesting considering it has similarities to its design, like for example being held in the style of a book. And one could even call this proto Hotel Dusk, because if I remember properly, I believe it came out before Hotel Dusk. So interesting note on that. But Again's interesting individual notes, primarily you play as a detective who has a strange power that they learn after a horribly strange murder happens, which starts a whole string of horrific murders, but you get this strange power to see the past. And the DS is used in this mode where the split screen, since you're holding in a book fashion, one screen will show the past and one screen will show the current state of how everything is now, allowing you to see what the environment was prior to a murder. This is a very useful system and is used in finding clues, ideas, and hints at what's going on, where to go, and what the fuck you need to do. It's the most unique part of the game when it comes to its gameplay. Aesthetically, though, it's also interesting using a much more realistic look, which is interesting considering it is indeed a Japanese-made game. So they were clearly going for a more Western influence with this setting of the game because, well, you could see it with the characters. So clearly not a ragtag of Asians in Japan, that's for sure. It's an interesting little title. It's definitely not, how should I say, the most blow your mind kind of thing, but it's an enjoyable little title. I enjoyed the twist of the end, and it's a nice little mechanic to it. It's a title I have literally heard no one ever talk about on YouTube. Now, of course, as I've said to my friend about like Diablo 2 Resurrection, on how like when it was announced it would be online only, and I have seen no one in my YouTube circle, in other words, people I watch in that, even remotely talk about it, since, you know, I could easily obviously do a search and obviously find people via that way, but I find it kind of interesting when there's nobody I watch who's ever talked about it. So yeah, I don't know anyone who's ever talked about this DS game. So I definitely say it's worth a little looky if you see it for an okay price. It's nothing completely unique, but it's an interesting experience for the DS, and it's only on the DS, so. The next title I like to talk about is Touch Detective. Again, two titles I finished and did reviews of. So, Touch Detective is a point-and-click style game on the DS. A naturally interesting style of game for the DS, considering its whole dual-screen touchscreen, which is an excellent use of it. And interestingly, pretty much the majority of the series is actually getting a new version on the Switch, which will be, you know, a little different because it's a console, though I imagine the touchscreen stuff will be still an option since you could play in portable. So, interesting way to get almost all the touch series, but it is only in Japanese, sadly, at this current moment. Maybe somebody will pick it up. Maybe that'd be nice, because we never got the third game in English. And actually, funnily enough, for those who aren't very familiar with Touch Detective, it's actually interestingly more popular series in Japan versus America, where we only got 1 and 2. The third game for the 3DS never came over, and several spin-off titles. There were 2, I believe there's a rhythm and a puzzle game on the 3DS, and I believe the puzzle game got a Switch port. And then there was some mobile versions with mobile editions and stuff, which are apparently going to be in the Switch version, which is interesting, actually, to see. That's an interesting, unique selling point. Something I needed to look into to see if I'm actually interested in the Switch version for that. But Touch Detective is a point-and-click game series, and it is definitely very lively to that, because there are definitely moments where you'll just be kind of baffled on what the fuck you need to do. Like, okay, I use this, nope, use this, nope, use this, nope, use... Oh, how the hell was I supposed to know that? Because there were definitely moments of that, but it is a very quirky and strange set of environments and characters. Now, each portion of the game is broken up into a case because you be a detective. So there's a case to be solved in each one where you have a victim, a situation, a scenario that's going on, and you gotta solve it. Some of them are a little more make sensey, while other ones are just absolutely baffling at what the fuck you're even doing. They're very strange, very quirky, and very Japanese, to the point that sometimes I wonder if there was some stuff lost in the localization, because, like, I can't remember what case it was in the first game. I think it was the third or fourth case that is a kidnapping, and it's so baffling strange, and you never really get to figure out why they even fucking did it, that I almost swear that the localization left something out for some reason, because it just literally makes no fucking sense to me. But it is a very charming series. I really like the aesthetic of the characters. The aesthetics of them are very interesting and very nice. It helps it stand out from being very, how should I say, anime, you know, very generic anime, if that makes sense. But they're very simplistic in their design, but it helps them stand out, in my opinion. And I look forward to one day actually giving the third game a try, even though it will be a confusing mess, considering I won't be able to logistically understand it without a guide or anything. Unless maybe we get lucky and that Switch version gets a localization, nudge, nudge. But a series I think is worth checking out. I think I've only ever seen like 2 people ever talk about Touch Detective. Not something, again, I've heard a lot of people ever really talk about. And of course, it being older on that, and really only finding a lot of popularity in the audience in Japan, it probably remains similar to that, which is a bit of a shame because it is a funny little series. But that one, I think, is another worthy one to check out. And I think they also aren't too pricey, I don't believe. I will say here that I didn't look up any of the game's values currently, so I don't know how much these are worth unless I always know in a more recent time. But if you can see them at a reasonable price, I would worth a check. Now here's a series that was really well known back in the DS era. And I feel like they're starting to fade in the back of people's minds for two reasons. Because 2 of the 3 games were Japan-only titles. So, you know, people more that was my age during the DS... Well, I mean, my younger age during the DS era who played said games, you know, more mature, and the more younger people, you know, becoming more... What I'm saying is, I think they're starting to kind of fade in the back of people's minds, or getting overtaken by other titles following in their footsteps, because they're, well, newer titles. So, the Ois, or I like to call them Oyadon, because that's what the Kyotos always say all the time, or the one title that came to America, Elite Beat Agents. These are very fun rhythm games that I played to death. Specifically the Japanese 2 titles, which was one in the sequel, which had a whole rival system with 2 cheerleading squads. The 2 Japanese titles star you being a cheerleader, cheering on people to victory, whether it be to get a good grade, to save the damsel in the dress, that's all, the damsel in this dress, in this distress, thank you, words, or from stopping a giant meal or destroying the whole planet. Yeah. But Elite Beat Agents instead starred like a FBI agent kind of thing team, which would basically do the same thing and cheer people through their problems and things. So basically the same thing, except more like secret agents. But honestly, the Japanese games are way better in my opinion. But to be fair, that's subjective to your taste in music, because obviously Japanese games have Japanese music. The attempt at Western version has Western music. So yeah, that's not to say that the Elite Beat Agents isn't fun in its own way, but I definitely sway better on to the Japanese titles. But these are fantastic titles. If you're more familiar with the Final Fantasy's musical outings recently, they have some similarities to that. And these were super popular on the fucking DS, the Japanese ones for sure, because they were considered hot imports. Like, some people even say that's when importing became a little bit more common in a way, because it was just this title. Tons of people are like, oh god, it's great. But fantastic games. I have no idea if they're expensive nowadays. It's a shame they never made more, but apparently because of licensing and that, because, you know, the music industry is one of the reasons they never pursued making another game, because as much as these were fantastic games and such, they never really felt like they were worth the money, considering all the licensing and shit, which is a real shame. Which is why you have, like, the fan PC game where people just make their own fucking songs. Kind of like how Beat Saber is on PC. So, yeah. Definitely worth a check. I remember lots of people talking about these titles back in the heyday. But, honestly, I haven't heard anyone talk about them in a very long time. So, definitely titles I think are worth checking out. Another title, I think, is linked to a series that people are pretty well known of, but aren't too familiar with this particular entry. Dragon Quest Rocket Slime for the DS, which is the second in the Rocket Slime series. There were 3 of them. First one was on the GBA. The second one was on the DS and did get localized to us. And the third game was on the 3DS and did not. So we never got the first or the third game, which is a real shame because these are fairly fun, simplistic games. Like, I would call them the Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars of platforming. They are just very charming, not super crazy, stressful, anything, just very relaxing and fun to find all the slime residents of your hometown in each one. But then the second one, it had this motif of running a gigantic tank that you had to battle the evil duels at certain points in the storyline, which is really a fun addition to the game, because I have indeed played through the GBA version of the first game, and yeah, like the tank thing was basically a whole new thing in the DS version and was a very nice addition. I really liked the battles. They're not, again, incredibly hard or difficult. They're just fun. They're just a nice fun. And I don't really, like, people certainly know the game exists, but I don't really hear anyone talk about it. And I think that sadly goes to show why we never got the third title, which is really, really sad, because I really enjoyed it. It was very fun. And it was also, if I remember correctly, one of the earlier titles to start showing off the Square Enix-ness of Square Enix versus, you know, them being separate companies then. Because, like, one of the NPCs they named Sid, even though it's a Dragon Quest game. Though, I don't know if his name was Sid in the Japanese version, if they just did that for the localization. To be honest, I don't actually know. But fun title. Have absolutely no idea of its current value. I do know back in its life, you could get cheap. I actually have a spare copy, just a loose DS copy. I have a cribbed version, though. I bought brand new when it came out. But I mean, like, I remember I got a loose copy from, like, GameStop for, like, $3 during, like, a buy two, get one free kind of thing of that. So, I have no idea its current value at all. But if it's still a decent price, definitely recommend for a nice, fun time. It's very enjoyable, in my opinion. Or the myth, the legend, Ghost Trick. Now, this one's a fun one to bring up right now, because as of now, Ghost Trick is getting a modern version. So, and this, I can tell you, is very expensive on the DS. So, if you ever had any interest in this title before, I would, you know, go to PlayAsia and buy the physical version, because they say it's going to have English on it. So, probably a good idea to get that, because who knows if it would just keep going up after it's sold out. Because Asian versions, they're a mixed bag. So. But Ghost Trick is originally a DS game from the creator of Phoenix Wright. And it even has a few little references to Phoenix Wright with a few characters in it. But it is a very different game. While there is a great mystery, it's a very puzzle-oriented game where you play as a ghost who basically can go backwards in time to reverse something that happened through someone's death, as long as they recently died. So it's an interesting motif, because you basically keep stumbling into people you need to solve your murder of yourself, being murdered, and then having to stop them from being murdered so you can figure out what happened to yourself. And boy, is it a good mystery. It gets really fucking weird at the end, though. But I liked it. And it's definitely suffers one of those kind of games where, you know, you play through it once and there's no real replay aside from enjoying the artfulness of the game. Like, it has very charming characters, style, and the groove. So other than that, the Wii play is like Zippo, because you know you're gonna, unless you are super forgetful, you're gonna remember all the solutions. But it could still be a nice game to visit once in a while after a few years, because it is a very lovely game. And I really hope this new version gets some steam, because I think one of the biggest shame of Ghost Trick is the fact that it apparently didn't sell very well, which is a shame. Because I would have loved to see a sequel. Not necessarily a sequel in the sense of the cast of the game in another game, or at least being the main role, maybe like Easter egg kind of things, but a sequel for the gameplay. Like, the gameplay mechanic was awesome. It was so... I really liked it. I thought it was such a shame they never made another game on that concept. I really, really hope maybe this will get someone to be like, hey, we need to make a Ghost Trick 2. Because, I mean, like, I think the characters of the first game storyline, it's all good. It's like that kind of situation that doesn't need a sequel. Make a new cast, could be even in just a completely separate world or something, but I would love to see another game of this gameplay mechanics. So, but yeah, don't skip out on the newer version of Ghost Trick unless you really want the DS version, but good luck getting that at a reasonable price. If you're lucky, maybe the Switch version will make the price go down if you really want it. Because to be fair, the DS is probably the better way to play it, because it really benefits from the touch controls. But definitely recommend it. I'm glad I bought it when it was brand. I still remember the GameStop, like my local GameStops where I got the DS stuff used to be by the window, and I remember sitting there. It just looked it odd, but it was a Capcom game. I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, this looks interesting in the butt. And I never regretted it at all. Fantastic game, was worth every fucking penny. So check that out if you never heard of it. That is probably one of the more known games that I'll play on this list, because to be honest, Ghost Trick quickly would become a very expensive title that people wanted. So that's probably the more known title on this list, to be fair, but it is definitely a fantastic DS game. Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans for the DS. This has an interesting history to me. I never knew this game existed when I first saw it. I saw it at GameStop, and I'm like, huh, I never heard of this Dragon Ball Z game here. You know, there's lots of Dragon Ball Z games. So I look it up, and I'm like, fucking cool! It's a JRPG! It's just a legit fucking... It's not even one of those card games or anything. It's just a legit JRPG. So I was like, sold. And I think I got for like $20 or something. It wasn't like super expensive, but it wasn't super cheap. And now I think it kind of commands about $100 now. So it is on the more pricey side the last time I saw how much it goes for. Sadly, I have a loose copy, which is a big shame because it is a fantastic game. If you ever want a fucking JRPG of Dragon Ball Z that didn't involve fucking cards, well, boy, do you have a game right here. And it's by Monolith. Holy shit. And you know, the big shame is this game didn't get a sequel because apparently it was pretty panned, which is really weird because I thought it was really good. It was also one of the last fucking video games I did camera Let's Play. Like back when I was first trying to do like DS Let's Plays, I used my Logitech cam, and it was pretty much like, I think the last game, or I think I did a little bit of way into Historia before I actually got a capture card. I can't quite remember. It's been a long time, but it is a really good game, honestly. And honestly, it's a really nice filler to a lot of the parts in the anime and manga that aren't really covered. Like, it has a lot of nice loose ties to certain things, especially a few to Dragon Ball characters as well. Honestly, it almost felt like it could have been canon, to be honest. I don't think it is considered canon, but there are a few little things you can kind of nitpick a little bit about the story. But honestly, there's a lot of nice references to Dragon Ball characters while collecting the Dragon Balls and stuff. But the game primarily is about the Vegeta arc, you know, when Vegeta and Nappa come down and Raditz, and like it's around that time period in the series, and it adds a lot of nice things of in between. Like, for example, you know, when they get the Dragon Balls to revive Goku, for example, you know, you didn't really get to see where all those Dragon Balls are. Well, you get to find out who and how they got them in this, that. So it has a lot of nice ideas, and oddly enough, Yamcha became like the most powerful fucking character for me, which of course, you know, if you know what happens, then Yamcha was, well, just watch the Let's Play. You can see me cry about it. No! The best character! It was hilarious. But, fantastic game. I really liked it. It's a very traditional style JRPG mixed with shitloads of Dragon Ball stuff. It's really nice, has lots of Easter eggs, homages, references, and retelling characters that, like, wouldn't ever fucking return until, like, what was that? Like, the Cell saga, I believe, made a few references. Yeah, I believe when Hokyo, you know, like, Hokyo uses Goku to, like, mind talk to everyone. If I remember correctly, like, that had a scene with Adol and such. So, yeah, like, there's a lot of characters from Dragon Ball that reappear in this title. So, lots of nice references and shit. Honestly, excellent game. I have no idea how it was panned so much. I mean, like, the only real criticism I could say is if you're not a Dragon Ball person, like, I mean, as a whole, like, not just Dragon Ball, but I mean, like, if you don't like the stuff, then yeah, the game's probably not going to be for you. Because other than that, it's just a JRPG with characters you don't really care about. If you don't like Dragon Ball Z, then you're probably not going to like the game story as much. But if you dig that and you like JRPGs, excellent thing to check out. Definitely recommend if you can find it for a good price. But as I said, the last time I saw it, it's kind of going up there, so kind of difficult. Again, it's not a title I really hear a lot of people ever talk about. I think I ever seen one person make a video specifically about it, which, again, is weird to me. Like, you think a lot of people would talk a lot more about such a excellent JRPG Dragon Ball game. But then again, personally, like, I know there's a lot of Dragon Ball RPGs, which are mostly card games, but I don't think a huge chunk of the Western front of the fan base really thinks RPG when Dragon Ball. I think that's more on the Japanese side, so I could see why if they were really relying on a lot of numbers from the Western market, that's probably one of the things that hurt a sequel, which is really a shame, because the end really, like, fucking does sequel baiting for the Frieza saga, and we never got it. It's so fucking sad. It's so sad, because I really think it's so good. The sprites, the art, the references, and everything. So it's just a huge shame we would never get a fucking sequel to this thing. Makes me want to fucking cry. But last, but not least, The Wizard of Oz Beyond the Yellow Brick Road. This is a very strange JRPG. And I remember reading about it on the internet was how I learned about it. And I wanted to get a copy. Now, at the time, it was a little hard to get, and it was commanding about $50 used, which is a bit expensive for a used game, because generally, non-well used stuff, is usually lesser value than originally came out. So it commanded a pretty high price for the time still, and I think it's even higher now, which a bit of a shame. It's a very interesting idea, though. A JRPG set in the Wizard of Oz. It has its own art style and everything to the characters. It has a very Japanese and a lot of cats, too. Very, very catty. Now, it's not a one-for-one telling of the Wizard of Oz. It definitely goes in its own direction with the story and what happens in it. So don't expect it to be just the Wizard of Oz with JRPG. Now, admittedly, it's not a perfect game. It does not make very good use of the bomb screen. The bomb screen is literally used to just fucking move. It's a trackball. That's all you use the fucking bottom screen for. It's just bleh, bleh, bleh. I mean, you get to use it to interact with menus too, but that's a norm with RPGs on the DS. At least I think it did. Again, it's been a long. I'm pretty sure it let you use the touchscreen. Maybe might want to double check that. Check the screen. But anyway. Primarily, this is a very traditional style JRPG for the most part, except for the party system. It has one interesting little mechanic to it. So, you have a certain amount of turns that get basically ate up depending on what character does an action. Like the Tin Man takes 3, but like Dorothy and Scarecrow takes 1, but the Cowardly Lion takes 2. So, it makes it where you get an interesting selection of the different characters, because like you could do 4 actions with splitting between Dorothy and the Scarecrow, but then the Tin Man and the Lion don't get to do anything, and they all have separate skills and stuff. So like obviously the Tin Man is going to be your heavy hitter, but taking 3 units to do actions takes up a little bit of your combat variety, so you kind of have to think about what you need for the situation, because obviously don't play right, people die, and dying sucks, right? But some of the things that criticize the game is the fact that it's kind of devoid of interesting environments, because for the most part you're just going through the yellow brick road, and the environment changes up a little bit as you go through each section to do the wizard's requests. But yeah, I mean, each section basically stays a lot the same, and a lot of the enemies don't really have a lot of variety, to be sad. But the aesthetics are really nice and everything, and it's just a very unique setting for a JRPG. I mean, how many Wizard of Oz games can you think of, and how many of them are even half decent? Yeah, that's what I thought. Virtually nothing. And this game's also odd because it was made by the company that made Wild Arms, of all things. So they definitely have RPG experience behind the company. So that was also really interesting the learn about with this title. Though it was localized by Xseed here in the West, which, to be fair, did some of the last few entries of Wild Arms. So I guess that's not really shocking how they got their hands on doing that. But I only know one person who ever covered this game, and they ironically used my footage with my blessing. A long old content creator who hasn't made anything new for a very long time, sadly. And I hope for the best for him, because I am aware of what they went on to do and such. So, and I do miss seeing them around. I always hoped one day they would make actually a new video saying like, "Hey guys," but yeah. Other than that, like I don't know anyone who's ever talked about the Yellow Brick Road game. It's just way under the radar in my opinion. And it's not a, like, how should I say, like, incredibly amazing game, but it's just different, if you get what I mean. A different setting, a different aesthetic, with a little touch to its mechanics. But for the most part, it's not the absolutely crazy amazing game. But it's definitely an unknown title that I don't really see a lot of people talk about. So, and that is my top 10 / top 7 under the radar interesting titles for the DS. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this video and presentation. I tried to put a little work into it and tried to make it look very nice. Yeah. With a little swing and a little sway, you know. But let me know what you think, and if, you know, well, good positive feedback, I will maybe look into doing some more of these. That, you know, it's like I said in the Ask Me Anything of the one journalist video, it is something I haven't done in a long time, so, you know. But anyway, take it easy.